Bleh. He gave me and whoever else was watching some serious insight as to how things changed per Rubin's sort of vision and design.
I was glad I was listening, and I observe everything and anything Static Age. I was glad he pointed out that Glenn also plays guitar on that album, and that in the outtakes you could hear two different guitars stopping. You could hear it specifically in the outtakes.
Yeah,
Attitude.
I did say that,
and that.
But you confirm that. That's true.
Yeah. You could hear on Static Age, especially if you listen with headphones. The intro guitar, there's a false start because Jim stops too early. You hear the one guitar end on this end. You hear one guitar end on this end. There would be no reason to have an overdub of a false start. You know what I'm saying? There would be no reason for Frank to go back in, play guitar for a song that is 5 seconds because it doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
So Glenn is uncredited second guitarist on Static Age.
There is some credits. If you look on YouTube, because they have to pay performance fees for whomever plays
mechanical royalties.
Exactly. You'll see on some songs he is listed as a guitar player on Static Age, the album. You know what I mean? And it would make more sense.
And Walk Among Us as well.
Yeah. But
so Doyle really only played. I mean, Doyle really truly only played on Earth AD.
Yeah.
Basically,
you could hear too on Walk Among Us that it's Glenn. Especially compare Walk Among Us to Initium guitar style wise, like certain chords, it's very Glenn as opposed to Doyle.
Then what about 12 Hits? This notion of Doyle and Bobby being together.
You could hear on different speakers, Bobby and Doyle. Doyle's is very
rudimentary.
No, not even rudimentary, but very. He does it very. I will say, I'm not taking away anything from Doyle. He did a great job on 12 Hits for the guitar. Like, I don't think he did a shit job by any means. It's very. The treble is turned down on his guitar. Bobby has that classic like Johnny Thunders high-endy.
Very Johnny Thunders.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could hear in one speaker as opposed to Doyle's. They're very uniquely different. If you listen, it's easy to tell with headphones. I used to be able to, in my old car, it'd be really easy to turn to right speaker or left speaker. So sometimes I would listen to Bobby's side and then sometimes Doyle's side, and it's night and day.
So that's funny. It's just like with the Ramones' first album. You can hear bass in one ear and
I have no clue why they did that though.
Why? What is the point? What is the purpose of this? I don't understand.
Not a clue. And you know what? That's a really dumb way of doing it too, because I had someone deconstruct Last Caress once. The studio,
isolate every single element,
because I wanted to replicate. I can't divulge what it is for, but I wanted to replicate a Static Age mix. So I had this engineer, this guy who's a phenomenal mixer over in Germany. I had him deconstruct the entire mix.
How does that work? Explain that to me. How do you deconstruct a mix? Because here's the thing, and maybe I'm thinking about this from a video perspective, and that's why it doesn't help me to understand.
In a stereo wave, you could isolate each side, you could just listen to the left, you could in the right, and there's a way of inverting audio.
Wait a minute. Go back. Sorry. Rewind. Rewinding Robby for a second.
There's a way when you have a stereo wave.
Yeah, tell me visually. Do the visual
thing. Here's a stereo wave. Here's the left side. Here's the right side.
Right.
You can isolate each side and then listen.
Okay.
But also, you're able to invert audio with certain DAWs, audio recording software.
Right.
Where you could invert it, and that's how people isolate vocals. So when you remove the vocals, you could really hear everything musically what's going on. So with like Last Caress, there's a couple songs where there's only one guitar, and what they do is they send one rhythm to another speaker with a slight reverb, so it's basically the John Lennon faking of double vocals, where because it's slightly off the time, You know what I mean? With it's like a millisecond off.
Yeah, it's called, that's double tracking.
Yeah. Well, no. Double tracking, you would just do two guitars. You would record one guitar and then you would just record another guitar and it would create a stereo. But if you're on a time restraint or you just want one rhythm, which really you usually wouldn't, you would fake it by sending it to a different speaker with a slight reverb or slight delay so it replicates or it gives a false illusion of a stereo image.
Oh.
And that's what a bunch of the songs in Static Age have. Last Caress specifically, there's one guitar on that. It's not two guitars on there, which is weird. You always usually want two rhythms.
Right.
But yeah, there's a bunch of songs like that on Static Age where it's a fake stereo image with one guitar just getting sent to another speaker with a delay.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not two guitars. It's actually four guitars being sort of faked.
See, this is where it gets messy. Like Attitude clearly has two different guitars.
Yeah.
A song like Last Caress only has one. There's no making heads or tails of it. You know what I mean?
So he did different things for different songs.
I guess maybe different studio days. He just didn't overdub. I wish I knew, you know. I wish there was documentation of this shit, man.
I mean,
anything, a photo. How could there not be a photo? One photo.
No, you know what you would need. You know what you would honestly need. You would need the tapes. No, you need the boxes that the tapes came on. You know, that's the whole point of doing that. You know, if you have an engineer, the whole point of having, keeping records. You know, like they did this with the Beatles. You know, they could tell you. You can know. I have the book upstairs. You know exactly what burp was being uttered. You know, at 4 p.m. on March 23rd, 1967. Because they just kept meticulous records. Obviously, this is punk rock. It's a little bit different, but you know, those boxes probably have so much information. And
I'm sure there is them though, because there are the boxes because it was in the at least the track listing or from the master tapes is in that book. What's that book? Scream With Me.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's in. Yes, it is in there.
Somebody has those master takes with all of the with the stems of each instrument, I'm sure.
Yes, I think I know who. I think I know who.
Just rotting away.
No, not rotting away. Definitely digitally preserved. But yes, definitely digitally preserved. But yes, I would imagine. Yes, that it does. You know, it's funny too. The whole thing about the baking of the tapes. I think it was said in the comments. Somebody was like, "You're wrong." About the, and I have to revisit the story because I don't remember what was said in the interview, but the notion, maybe I have the story wrong, or the notion that when you bake tapes, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to disintegrate. And they made a very good point. If a tape is disintegrating as it's passing over the playhead, then what's pulling the tape, right?
Yeah.
The tape, that the playhead is not powerful enough to pull at the tape as it's disintegrating.
Yeah, just because it's baked doesn't mean that it's going to disintegrate.
It loosens it up. It loosens it up and keeps it strong for one pass.
It would disintegrate if you didn't bake it. You know, that's when it would fuck up. If it was if it went in like super dried out and shit like that.
Right, that's what it is. It's dried out.